Looking for healthier, fuller hair? Do you want extra money for bills, trips, extracurricular activities for your kids, or do you want to replace your entire income? Monat is the answer. Our products are Leaping Bunny certified, vegan, and Monat can be used by anyone, including your kids and pets. Message me on my Instagram to partner with me. Founder shares are available, and as a market partner, you have access to uncapped bonuses, 45% commission, 35 to 55% off discounts, on top of all-inclusive paid trips. Right now, I also have a free gift for anyone that partners with me, so don't miss out. You can message me on my Instagram at LizChilvers86.
We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today. Welcome along to NUFC Matters Worst Ever 11. It's a new show, and I've got Martin in to debut it with us. How are you, Martin?
I'm all right, mate. Really good. It's been a lovely day. I'm on a week's holidays. My eldest is away. He's been texting us. You know, my eldest.
Yeah.
He was over last time I was over in Newcastle with you. He is on a cruise with his girlfriend around the Med, celebrating their leaving exams. So he sent us a classic picture today for an Irishman, which I thought was really bad, of him on board a big cruise ship with flip-flops and socks on. So I'm going to kill him when I get off here and text him. But he's he's out there with the girlfriend, and the two of them are letting their hair down, celebrating the exams, and on a Med cruise. So I have a week off with the other two kids. The weather's been fab, but it's meant to lash tomorrow, so we're heading to the water park. So yeah, just a bit of downtime. So it's nice, just chilling out, mate. So I'm good.
Very good, mate. Very good. Well, just for a bit of fun, and as a pre-recorded show, these ones are easy for us to do. We've done the best 11, and most of us, I think, on the platform have done that over the course of the last couple of years. The only caveat I gave to anyone about the worst 11 was I don't want any current players, managers involved in this, because we don't want to start
bad mouthing,
bad mouthing players, current players or managers in the team. So yeah, it's fair game. I'm imagining this has probably been just as difficult as picking your best team, Martin.
Obviously you text me during the back end of last week, and I was like, yeah, no, that's handy enough to do. And then I text you yesterday. I said, oh man, I'm not going to have this ready. And then today I said, right, I'll go at it again. And by lunchtime, I was like, no, look, listen, this is the final one. I'm not doing it again. So I just snapshot it here and I said, right, that's it. I'm done. But yeah, it's hard because like there is a good few when you think back, but I think it's like the best 11 that we did during COVID and stuff. It's like it's personal, and sometimes it's just things that make you think of a player, or something that may have stuck out in the game, or somebody that was just an absolute donkey. So I think it'll be interesting to see the likes of Mitches and Stews and stuff, because I think there'll probably be some like for likes, but I think it'll vary a lot by person. But yeah, a hard task, to be fair.
Okay, well, you've got 11 players. You're allowed 3 substitutes and a manager. I know we could have had an unlimited amount of substitutes, but obviously we're going to start with your goalkeeper. So who's got the number 1 shirt?
Yeah, I went with a bit of a left-sider. I'd say a few might have it, but I went with Lionel Perez. We obviously signed him from our brother along the road there, the Unwashed. Bit of a weird signing for me, because he had to dislodge 3 keepers who were in front of him. So it was absolutely, for me, it was just a ridiculous signing. He had no hopes really of dislodging the 3 that were in front of him at the time, and eventually disappeared. Where he slid down the leagues and eventually joined Cambridge in, I think it was the year 2000. I think he joined Cambridge after being on loan with them for a while, and just obviously then disappeared into obscurity. But just a weird signing, because he was doing okay at Sunderland. He was very much well touted, and we obviously signed him, but he was never really going to get a game. So it was just a weird one for me. But I think, again, as keepers come, the fact he didn't really play and then he slid through the ranks, I think that's kind of where I started.
Yeah, I could never understand that signing either. I mean, there's so many keepers that we've had who've been fantastic over the years, but I think he might feature in quite a few teams.
To be fair, exactly. To be fair, Beardsley went in goal against West Ham when we lost, and he was still better than Lionel Perez was.
Yeah, his haircut as well. Just everything about him. Yeah, there was just something not right about seeing him in goal for us as well. That was the thing. Look at he's wearing his sleeves. He's
a bit of a weird one. Yeah, that's a nice jersey though. To be fair,
it is.
Let's bring that back. Yeah, we'll be happy with that.
It is a nice one. Okay, so back 4. Who's your first defender?
Yeah, so I went now. Obviously, positioning wise, I just put in a left back, 2 centre backs, and a right back. So if they're not in the right positions, don't anybody be looking at them, texting me and shouting me. So I popped in at left back. I went for Ashraf Lazar.
I'd forgotten all about him. I had forgotten all about him. And I googled him to get this photograph, and I was like, oh yeah, I do remember him. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, joined in 2016. He was initially signed as competition for Paul Dummett, and he made a total of 9. I know I did jot myself down a few notes. I did a bit of a penman, but obviously not as long-winded. He did nine appearances, and his claim to fame after leaving Newcastle was Steve Bruce signed him on loan for Sheffield Wednesday, and then when he came to Newcastle, he obviously didn't think that much of him because he was gone. So, again, just another one. Very limited appearances. I think it was 5 or 6 million spent on him. It could be less than that. I could be wrong, but just achieved absolutely nothing and disappeared. And obviously Dummett stayed where he was. So yeah, just another odd signing, really, of a foreign lad coming in doing nothing.
Yeah, we went through this period as well under Athley where we were signing these foreign players for cheap, hoping that they would do well and sell them on for a vast amount of money. And this seemed to, I mean, I'm not wanting to talk about Hermon, but we seem to go through this period, as we'll see a little bit later on with some of your other choices of signing some players with some dodgy haircuts. Lazar was definitely one of them. I mean, that's a great shout. I'd forgotten all about him there. That was probably one of the longest things he did there was signing his contract in a black and white.
I'd say so. Yeah, I think the media day was the longest appearance he had in a black and white shirt. I think.
Okay, mate. Who's next?
Yep. Centre back then. So I'll throw me 2 centre backs and you can pop up the pictures. So first one I went for the enigma that was Sol Campbell. Obviously signed by the good man Chris Houghton there, who, to be fair, was a fantastic manager. I'm not quite sure what he was doing with Campbell. Obviously ended career. Obviously a massive stalwart for Spurs and then to Arsenal. Only played 8 games in total for us. And was pretty much throughout the time that he was with us was sidelined by what one can only describe as mysterious viruses. So yeah, he was one that I think we heard the name Newcastle signing Sol Campbell, and you kind of went, okay, he's coming to the end of his game, but listen, he can certainly do a job. But he never really, outside of the 8 games, got on the pitch, and just like I say, every time he was due to come back, he ended up with some other kind of viral issue that he just never hit the pitch again. So yeah, just another one that I would have liked to have seen. I suppose a bit of leadership and stuff from, but the guy just never really ever got going.
You see, he was at the end of his career, but he was carrying some weight as well. Some players can carry a bit of weight and still put performances in. But I mean, you can see there, and I mean, I picked that photograph because that's probably one of the more flattering photographs, but there's some really unflattering photographs of him in training and in an away blue strip. Oh, yeah. And I
think he had some other stuff going on as well, though, Steve. I don't think, certainly towards the end, certainly from outside looking in, I don't think the headspace was there either. No. With whatever was going on. I know he had some of his own personal issues and stuff, but it's a shame, really. Like, you take on a player like that, you think you're going to get something, but obviously it just doesn't work out. But yeah,
he's up there with John Barnes and Ian Rush for me, two players who I admired as players at Liverpool during those amazing championship years for Liverpool, and I thought it'd be great to get them at Newcastle at some stage. And Stuart Pearce and Kenny Sampson, another two names. There's some wonderful players, and we just got them at the back end of their career when they were just terrible.
Yeah, on the decline, unfortunately.
Okay, next centre half then.
I chatted about this lad a few weeks back when we were talking on the fans forum, and dead easy this one for me from the other centre backs, Marcelino. Again, another one that we signed from Real Mallorca. 17 appearances. The 17 appearances you could look at and go, okay, he came in, he had a few injuries, but that was over 4 seasons. So obviously the big one that we all knew about was Fingergate, with the snapped finger tendon that kept him out best parts of 2 seasons. But again, just another one came in around about 6 million. I think we signed him for 4 seasons, never really got going. Came in all hype, and the hype fizzled away. He did nothing for us, unfortunately. Like I say, the 17 appearances, little spurts of looking half decent, but just injury prone. And another one in a black and white shirt who went nowhere, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, the Fingergate thing was really weird, wasn't it? I mean, that's really what everyone tends to remember him for now. Everyone says, oh, yeah, that was the one who didn't play anymore. He had a bad finger. But I mean, I'm sure there's another side to it. I'm sure there's another story to it. And I think he has opened up in interviews, and said it was a poor time of his career. He didn't get the opportunity to express himself in the way that he would have liked to. It didn't quite work out for him, which I guess it can sometimes happen. It can be difficult, I think, especially when you're a player from a different country coming to England and to the northeast as well. Maybe he just didn't settle. Maybe he just didn't settle in, and maybe in the dressing room he just wasn't part and parcel of the banter in the dressing room. That can sometimes play a part as well.
Yeah, I think with any foreign lad coming over, I think back in the team he came into as well, like we were flying as well. You had Shearer there, you had other, you had Rob Lee, you had players there that really were the stalwart of that. And coming in from, to be fair, La Liga, I would say was at the point was not at the same level as the Premier League was back at that point. The Premier League was really, really, was a prime product. So I think he probably came into it and maybe struggled to adapt. And like you said, with the languages and everything else. But yeah, Fingergate was a weird one. But because it never ever came around that he actually got operated on it, which is kind of like this consistent thing about, he can't play because of his finger. I mean, I remember joking with the lads going, well, sure, he's not in goal. Well, just strap him up and get him out there. But he just never ever played. So, yeah, bit of a weird one.
Yeah, strange one. But I can see why he is in your worst 11. And next defender.
Yeah, now I know he's kind of played in a couple of positions, more notably central defender, but I put him in because I think he deserves to be in there, which is the man that is Titus Bramble. Pretty much an unmitigated disaster at times for us. The own goal expert. I think the only thing he did really well for us twice over was the Derby day when he scored a class own goal, and then promptly in one of the others, I think, got himself sent off in the 5-1. So I think he actually played better for us when he was in a red and white shirt than he was in a black and white shirt. But he was just in amongst that time. I think offhand, was he alongside Boomsong for a while? I think they were our two centre backs, and between the two of them, they were just catastrophic at times. If it wasn't one, it was the other. So again, I think just for somebody, again, we got him. I think for around about 5 or 6 million from Ipswich. He was playing for England under 21s. So again, another player that had all the lead up to being a very, very good player, but when he got in front of that 52,000 and in front of the Gallagher, he just went to pieces. So he gets a shout out, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I mean, we got him for £6 million, which, at the time was quite expensive, but he was, I think it was his second season at Newcastle. He was voted as the worst player in the Premier League by an online fanzine, which, I think it just tells you where he's at. I always remember him scoring a goal against Chelsea, which got us into the Intertoto Cup. Which was the final game of the season, and it was a volley. He only scored 3 goals in the right end for Newcastle, but yeah, I mean, he played a lot of games alongside Boomsong that he played. He played alongside Stephen Taylor, who was also at times could be a bit kamikaze. It's probably the best way to describe him. If I think rightly as well, he probably played a few games with Woodgate, which is probably when he looked better. But
more stable, yeah.
When I've looked at Bramble's career in the past, I was always surprised, how few games he played. He only played 299 games.
Yeah,
I always feel like it was
massively injury prone, to be fair.
No, I always feel it was a bit of a waste. You know what I mean? And I mean, I know because I was working on the doors in Newcastle. He was one of these socialites. He was out there with Dyer and that mob out and about on a night out. So could just be a chance that he just he didn't play as many games as he should. Yeah, exactly. Okay, we're into the midfield, and now we'll go for 2 more players, and then we'll have a quick ad break. So, who's your first midfielder?
Yeah, well, this one, probably if anybody watching from Ireland might give me a bit of grief when I get back to work next week. But I put on left wing, and I put in, unfortunately, I put Damien Duff in. Obviously, high profile signing from Chelsea, was absolutely flying at Chelsea when we signed him. So I think he went to Chelsea from Blackburn, was it? I think.
Yeah.
Had some, I think 4 or 5 seasons at Chelsea, done really well. We signed him, and sure, look, we all know the only thing, well, 2 things he'll be remembered for in my mind is the own goal of Villa to send us down the first ever time, and then promptly saying in an interview, we're all going to work hard to get us back up, and then promptly left. So for me, he goes in there just for being an outright scally and a scoundrel, for costing us our place in the league. Listen, I know we'd lost a lot more games, and it wasn't just down to him, but I think for me it was that double-edged sword of doing the interview and telling everybody we'll all work as one, and this team wants to get back up, and then the first option he had, he was gone like a shot. So because he did that to us, I think I would find it hard to forgive and forget. So he goes in there for me.
Yeah, there was a lot of allegations as well that he was one of the senior players that got it in the neck from the likes of Barton and Lascelles in the dressing room after the Leyton Orient humiliation in pre-season, and that was one of the reasons he left. And it surprised me when you sent me your team over. I had a quick look at his stats after he left us, because I was thinking, where did he go? I couldn't remember. And of course, he went to Fulham, and he played 130 games for Fulham and scored 15 goals. So
yeah, he did all right for them. There was a player there, but I don't know what happened at the end for us. I mean, I'm sure he took a fair bit of grief because obviously, we had social media and stuff around it. So, it was kind of the start of that, I suppose. And, he would have definitely taken flack, when we're not a fickle bunch, us black and white. So I'd say he certainly got grief. But I just think it's one of those, you don't come out, pretty much at the, within a week and go, listen, we're all in this together, we'll stick together. And then a week later, you're gone. So I just think it was one of those. But look, there was definitely a player there. He did well for us when he was playing. So I'm not, he wasn't an overall bad player. But I think for me, it was just the fact of what happened and the way it ended for me. I would stick him in that worst 11.
Yeah, Sam Allardyce, obviously in the relegation season, he got a really bad knee injury in November, and he was out for about 3 or 4 months. And then he he ended up returning only to get an ankle injury, and Sam Allardyce had come out and said, it's a career-threatening injury. So, of course, the change of managers after that saw Alan Shearer come in as an interim manager, and Duff was asked to play at left back, and as you've already mentioned, conceded that own goal in the final game of the season, which sent us down. He did incidentally score Newcastle's first goal of the following season in the 1-1 draw against West Brom before he left. But yeah, a great international career for the Republic of Ireland. Didn't quite hit it off at Newcastle, and the first midfielder in Martin's 11. So next midfielder, Martin.
Yeah, again, probably won't be loads that remember this one, but I put in Stephen Ireland.
Yes, so, often seen in casinos.
Yes, certainly wasn't seen around St James's Park, that's for sure. So he joined in 2011 on loan from Villa, whilst he was already injured. So for me, that was just a weird one. He played a total of 49 minutes, and that's probably it there in the picture. So came whilst injured, obviously decent baller at his time in Man City, moved on to Villa. We loaned him and we got 49 minutes out of him. So again, just another totally weird player to put into the team. Just a totally weird deal in full for me. The fact he was out injured and we still loaned him and brought him. So just crazy. Could never get my head around it. But he's in.
Yeah, I mean, good. Coming to Newcastle and, as you said, as an injured player, just absolutely bizarre. The strangest thing to do for Newcastle, and just another ankle injury which curtailed somebody's chance to play for Newcastle. Okay, we're going to have a quick ad break. We'll be back after this.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find their website at skipsandbins.com. Contact us, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to United Group Travel. They are the Travel and Tourism Award winners in 2024. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. A big thanks to Media Arts. You can find them at www.media-arts.co.uk. And don't forget, we are a podcast. You can find us on iTunes or Spotify or other podcast providers. If you want to help the channel grow, then hit the like button, the little thumb underneath the video, click share and share to your social media, or join the channel for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to take out a one-off payment membership, go to nufcmatters.com and hit membership. And for a £25 fee, you get a scarf, a cup, a pen, and a membership card. You can also put a smartphone over the top of this QR code. It'll take you straight there. And don't forget, we also help the food bank on this channel. NUFCfansfoodbank.co.uk is a website where you can make a virtual donation today.
Okay, welcome back to NUFC Matters. It is Martin's worst 11, and we are in the midfield at the moment. Who are you going for next?
Yep, so this one was one that when we got him, I was actually really excited because he was an Ajax Academy player, was absolutely tearing it up with his brother in the Dutch league. And of course, we signed the one and only Sim de Jong, who came, got into Newcastle, and was an absolute flop. With such a for me, such a good player, like class midfielder, ripping it up in the Dutch league, and got to Newcastle, and everything that could go wrong went wrong. I think culminating at the end with, if memory serves, and Stevie might correct me, he got like an eye injury or something.
I mean, going through these injuries, right? This has to be the most unluckiest player I think that we've ever had.
I think so.
Because he injured his right thigh in September when we'd signed him in the summer. He got off to a decent start. Only scored the 1 goal, I think. He was Alan Pardew gave him the vice captaincy. And then he came back from that injury with his right thigh, and I think he made his first team return sometime in the new year. He then was out for 8 weeks with a collapsed lung.
Yeah.
And then after that, you're quite right. He had a freak accident in which one of his contact lenses was pushed into his eye, which threatened his eyesight. So, you know,
that was the end of it.
We never saw him again.
No, that was it. He was gone. That was it. But a good player. Like, I watched him, like, when we signed him, and it was like touted that we were getting him. Like, I remember looking at him on YouTube and stuff, going, Jesus Christ, like, this lad's a baller. But it just all promise. But I think there's definitely a player. I mean, he's gone back. I think he went back to the Dutch league or wherever he went, and he did well again. So, I suppose it's one of those when you get an Ajax academy player, you're kind of going, these are definitely good footballers. But yeah, look, good baller, but yeah, just mega unlucky. But
he had a 6-year contract with us. He didn't last 5 minutes. He then went to Ajax and he signed a 3-year contract there. It didn't work out for him there, so they loaned him a year later to Sydney in Australia, and he won the A-League Grand Final in 2019. After that, he went to FC Cincinnati, which was the following season, and then after that, he ended up at Herenveen and then Graafschap. Basically, which was his a 1-year contract with them. It was a dream move for him because that was his boyhood club. And he retired in 2023. But essentially, after Newcastle, where he played 22 appearances and scored 1 goal, he was just injury hit most of the time. Herenveen, he managed to play 46 games in 2 seasons. And never quite did it with the Netherlands either. He went all the way through from the 17s to the 19s to the 21s to the B to the first team, but only played 6 times and scored 2 goals. But another wasted career, but maybe blighted by injury again, Martin. You know,
and some freak ones as well, as you say, not just your normal Achilles or calf strain or nothing. Like a punctured eye and a collapsed lung, not one you'd have on the injury list, although we've seen plenty of weird ones with Eddie's troops recently. I've seen some weird injuries I've never seen before. But anyway, what have I got next then? Okay, last one in the midfield then. Used to again, this is another one for me when we signed him. Kind of like didn't really know who he was. Did a little bit of looking and thought, okay, yeah, this lad looks promising. Remy Cabella.
Yes, and another dodgy haircut.
And another dodgy haircut. Yeah, no, we were doing good. And that, do you know what it is? Weirdly, I actually didn't mind that shirt. I actually quite liked that shirt. I wouldn't mind that Adidas doing a bit of a version in the grey, bringing back that one, the retro 80s. But look, we brought him in from League One in France. He'd won the title with Montpellier, completely underfancied. A bit of a shock in the French league. We bought him for 8 million, and as we did with Messrs. Ashley, we put him on a 6-year deal for 8 million. And barring, I think, 1 or 2 flash in the pan goals, he didn't do a thing again. Had the ability, but just another one for me that got into that team and just didn't fit and didn't really produce. So he goes in for me. Had the flashness, but couldn't convert for me.
Another one whose career went on a funny spiral after he left Newcastle. He's been to a variety of clubs. I mean, he from Newcastle he went to Marseille, if you remember, as part of the deal that saw Florian Thauvin come to Newcastle. And
another one that could be in that 11.
Yeah, exactly. He did okay in Marseille, but he was there for a couple of years. Ended up at Saint Etienne, and then went to Krasnodar. Which was a Russian team, and then from there, he ended up
leaving there because of obviously the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Last seen a return to France for him in Montpellier until the end of the 2022 season. And apparently he's still active at Lille.
Wow.
By the sounds of it. So still playing. He must be some age now, but yeah, Newcastle didn't quite hit it off. 31 appearances and 1 goal. Cabella's only goal for Newcastle was in a 3-0 win against Hull City, away at Hull City.
Away from home, yeah, I remember that one.
And he actually got an award as well. He was subsequently awarded the Player of the Month for January by Newcastle fans. Tells you how bad things were, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we didn't have much to hope for.
All right, mate. So you've got your midfield sorted out. Who's up front?
Yeah. Geez, do you know what? These were the two that I struggled with. One was easy. The other one, to fill the gap, I could have probably chosen a good few. So first one, I went with Seydou Doumbouya. And anybody that doesn't know who this lad is, then you're not a real Newcastle fan. That's all I'll say. Joined in 2016 from CSKA Moscow under Mr. McLaren. He played 3 times. I think he scored. Did he score once? I don't even remember.
I don't think he did, you know. I'll have to check it up. I
couldn't remember. But he played 3 times under McLaren, and for the remainder of his time, he sat it out. Obviously, we got relegated. Benitez came in, and Benitez never played him once at all. So we never seen him. He played the 3, and that was it. But yeah, just one that came in that again was looked like he was banging the goals in over in Russia. Looked fairly prolific. Obviously, I suppose Newcastle fans going, we could have another Demba Ba or Papa Cisse here. But we didn't. I think we had a Papa John's. I think it was just he preferred to stay on the sidelines and eat. So yeah, we never seen him. So he's one for me.
Yeah, last seen in the Maltese Premier League on a 6-month contract. Never seen after 2021. It doesn't sound. Actually played up front for the Ivory Coast and played, believe it or not, as part of the 2014 FIFA World Cup squad. And at the 2015 African Cup of Nations, Doumbouya scored Les Elephants' first goal of the tournament during their 1-1 draw with Guinea. So I guess he's had a little bit of success in his life. And believe it or not, it's a wonder we didn't sign him. He's actually got another brother who plays football. Ousmane Doumbouya plays football as well. In fact, when we're discussing, I'm just going to say how he did. He played for Atletico Ajam, Servette, Everton Sport, Winterthur, Zurich, Lugano, and he's still currently playing, so we could get him back. We need a striker. Chicago Fire he's playing for. And he's 11 appearances, no goals.
Oh, well, at least the no goal scoring runs well in the family. There you go.
Following on from his brother. But there we go. Yeah, that's a blast from the past. All right, your last man up front.
Last man, this guy, it just absolutely galls me to even see this fella on the telly. And I would rather turn it off than look at his face. And that is the one and only Michael Owen. Again, obviously, came in, got the injuries. Listen, when he was playing, scored some good goals. Brace against Sunderland, you know, started to link up well with Shearer. 2 goals against West Ham. Could score, obviously, when we got him, and he came back from Real Madrid. Listen, Souness, I think, signed him. We gave him a welcome at St. James's, the big pictures with the jersey and everything else. But, oh my God, what a shithead. He just, once he got injured and he sat on his service and clicked his money, since he left the club, he's done nothing but badmouth us. And for that reason, predominantly, he goes in my team of the worst 11. I have no time for the lad whatsoever. And I think, listen, I get sometimes things don't work out. Players get moved to a club. He obviously didn't really want to come to Newcastle. He'd hoped he was going to go back to Liverpool. They never came in for him. He came to us, obviously massive payday. Between Souness and Freddie Fletcher, we pumped the money into getting him there. 16 million, I think, we paid. But I just wish we'd never done it. I wish I'd never seen him in a black and white shirt. But yeah, he goes in for me, and I just have a massive disdain for him. I hate seeing him on the telly. Actually, hate him. Sorry.
Another one with injury issues though. I mean, he got that foot injury at Spurs, and it was. I mean, he was. You know, the surgery he had wasn't successful because he was expected to be out until March, and he had to have another minor operation on it. So he came back into the team in late April, and he wasn't 100% happy with his foot. So he went through another X-ray. He made himself unavailable for our last home game of the season, which made it into the press, which upset everybody. Everybody was foaming. And then, of course, he goes off to the World Cup in 2006, and in the first minute of the group match against Sweden, he does his ACL, and that really was the beginning. That was the beginning of the end. And I remember Newcastle sticking to their guns because, you know, I think FIFA offered them something in the region of £1 million compensation, and Newcastle were going, "You must be joking! You know what this kid's on? Wages he's on." But ultimately, you know, Newcastle had to go out and buy another striker. They had the wages to pay, so I think eventually there was a compromise settlement between Newcastle, FIFA, the FA. And I think it came to something like £7 million, and I think the overall compensation package was round about £10 million. But I mean, they had to go and buy Obafemi Martin, so just over £6 million, to replace him. It just became a nightmare. But you were 100% right. The way that he's gone on and the way that he's carried himself since he left the club, and the way that he's talked in a disrespectful manner about Newcastle is awful. And I remember that kind of brochure being leaked as well. There was like a brochure. When when he was at the club, he was touting himself around, and that got put out there as well, you know. And just to hear that he didn't even want to be at Newcastle, you know what I mean? And I just it sickened me, really. It really did.
Exactly.
But, yeah.
Listen, things don't work out, and I think we were saying this when we were talking the other week. It doesn't always work out, and I get that. But like, just the one thing I've learned, in any business, and even the trade that I'm in, you don't badmouth an employer, because at some point, you go around in circles, especially in certain businesses, and football is one of them. So it comes back to bite you. And I think, he's done certain programs and YouTube programs that I've seen, and we're always first topic out of his mouth. And I think just leave it be, just move on, stop slating, and just do, if it's your horses or if it's your bit of punditry, great. But listen, by the way, the punditry, you're shite at that and all. But anyway, but yeah.
It was, I think, ultimately what done with Newcastle fans was that refusal to play in the run-in for Alan Shearer, and whatever happened there was unforgivable, because
no love lost anyway.
Michael Owen would have made a difference. I'm telling you now, he would have made a difference in those games, and we were left with Viduka and stuff up front. It was always going to lead to disaster. But that's your 11. So we're giving you 3 substitutes before we get to your manager. So who's your 3 subs?
Yeah, so I just did a goalie, a midfielder, and a striker. So goalie, I went for Jack Anick. To be fair to the lad, he was kind of thrust into it because he came in 2014-2015 season, I think, and at the time, I think Tim Krul and Elliott were injured, if I remember rightly, and he was thrust in. The first game he came in, I think we played Chelsea. He came in that game and we won 2-1, and he made 7 appearances after that, but he conceded 14 goals in that 7, so an average of 2 a game. He was just brutal. So I felt a bit sorry for him, but I think just from a point of kind of getting thrust into it, in particular, the likes of Krul, because, I think Krul was, a fab keeper for us. But I think coming in off the back of that, kind of following in those 2 keepers, doing well in the first game, there was probably high expectations. And then we just conceded goal after goal after goal after goal. So, yeah, unfortunately, he's in as my sub goalie.
Yeah, went on to have a bit of a career afterwards at different places, and still at Cardiff at the moment. So he looks a bit different to that photograph, I have to say. He's still got the beard, a bit more of a beard now. So next sub.
Yeah, so I threw a midfielder in, and I went with Gabriel Obertan. So he was one that we got from the Fergie era, 2011, I think. I could be corrected.
Yeah,
obviously one that we thought, oh my God. Now hindsight's a wonderful thing, but then when you're looking at it, you're kind of going, why did Fergie let him go? Because he was that good, he probably wouldn't have. But was he in a makeshift deal? Did somebody go the other way and he came in, or was that?
He came. No, he came in on
sign him?
Just signed him. He came in on a 5-year contract, and it was an undisclosed fee, but they suspected it was around about £3 million.
Okay, so he was, for me, he was like, I think the thing I remember from him was like, he had pace, like the lad had pace to burn. He was super quick, but he was too quick. Like sometimes he would overrun the ball. So he had all the pace. He was a absolutely right player for that midfield, for the wing. But he just had no end product. He had no end product. He couldn't cross the ball. He couldn't put it where it needed to be. So for me, for somebody that came out of that Fergie era, I suppose, with all the hype, he was just another one that kind of didn't hit the heights. I couldn't even tell you. I think he did score some goals, but I wouldn't say too many. But no end product for me. So unfortunately, he goes in my my subs bench.
Yeah, got blighted by injury in the first season as well. He had an infection in his toe after his first game. He set up a goal for Denver Bar, and then we never saw him for weeks. And then he ended up with another injury, an ankle injury, which kept him out for a month. And he found himself behind the pecking order when Ben Arthur came through as well. Ben Arthur was his competition, and he couldn't overtake him. I mean, that first season, 23 appearances, and he scored 1 goal. But overall at Newcastle, 58 appearances and scored 2. And for a midfielder, that's pretty woeful. It has to be said. And from there he went on. He went on to a load of teams which you've never even heard of, with the exception of Wigan. And he didn't set the world alight there either. 12 games, 1 goal. Never got an international cap at senior level, but was capped at 16, 17, 18, 19, and 21. But yeah, just an enigma. And I think you nailed it when you said, why did Fergie give him away? Because Alex Ferguson never used to give away good players, did he?
Not stupid, not exactly. Okay, then last one, then striker. And I went with Emmanuel Riviera. So again, another one who came in with full of promise. And I remember rightly, we used to sing a song, Bon Jovi's Living on a Prayer, and we linked it to his name. Now, I can't for the life of me remember the bloody song or how it went, but I remember the tune. But again, I think he only scored 2 goals, which I think was in the cup against Palace. He scored 2, and I think that was it. I don't remember him scoring many more. But again, he was one of those that came in that was hyped up or overhyped, and just again didn't set the world alight. And probably to a degree, I would say his time with us was a bit like probably Paul Joe Linton's first season. Couldn't hit a barn door. But yeah, he's my sub striker for numerous reasons.
Yeah, I mean, again, pathetic return for £6 million, 26 games, 1 goal. Alan Pardew spending £6 million on this kid, and 4 years, a 4-year contract as well for him. Yeah. These contracts were absolutely crazy that were being handed out. But yeah, and again, after he left Newcastle, Osuana, Metz, Cosenza, Crotone, never even heard of the places. Yeah. It just a career that eventually just,
downhill.
It just went downhill up in 2021. Last heard of in 2021, nothing after that, So what is he doing now? Who knows? Where is he now? But maybe it's a new thing that
somebody will know.
Yeah. So who is going to manage this motley crew?
But for me, the manager was actually probably one of the hardest ones for me as well. But I went purely off the factor of having been at the game, which was a very, very wet night at St. James's. And unfortunately, we were undone by a Quinn and Phillips 2-1 against the Mackhams. And for me, I put my manager in as the one and only Mr. Ruud Gullit. Again, massive fanfare when he came. Obviously, got us to a cup final. We were just unfortunate those 2 years. We did get cup finals, one with him and one with Dalglish. We just happened to meet the 2 best teams in the country. and came away empty-handed twice over. But for me, as a player, absolutely brilliant footballer. As a manager, no thanks. And I think the biggest thing for me was that night at St James's, which was Shearer Gate, which was Shearer and Ferguson being benched on that very wet night. And I think it was just something for me as a Newcastle fan and wanting your best players to play against the enemy, to drop Ferguson and Shearer for that game, I could never forgive him. So for that reason only, I'd put him in the trench of managing my worst 11, because I think that was his undoing, and for that reason, it makes him probably, alongside a couple of other candidates, it makes him the worst manager.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, when he left Newcastle, he didn't do anything after that either. Went to Feyenoord, finished 4th in their league, which is abysmal for Feyenoord. Went to LA Galaxy, no wonder, because the money that they were paying was absolutely crazy out there. $2 million he was supposedly on for his contract there. But went on a 7-game winless streak, and him and Alexi Lalas, who was his general manager, were fired at the same time. And then his last managerial job was Terek Grozny, which was a Russian Premier League side. And Hullet had agreed to sign a 1.5-year contract there. And again, money was huge, apparently. That was his last job in football. And you know, this came after such a bright start, you know, at the likes of Sampdoria and then Chelsea. Chelsea, he became the first person to win them a trophy. They won the FA Cup, you know, and, you know, he looked as if he was doing so well there. But, yeah, strange fish. And I always feel like he was at Newcastle longer than he was. It was only one season, 1 year, one calendar year that he was at the club. And I always feel like he was there longer, you know.
Yeah, no, I just think of that. Like, I remember trudging up past Rosie's that night. I was with a pal of mine, and my feet were soaked before I even got into the Gallagher, because the deluge of rain. And then it was just like Phillips' goal was just like, you just kind of seen it going, and it was just such a, oh man. And then Quinn, you know, to be fair, they were a bloody good strike force, but to leave out 2 lads on the bench that would have created a problem, especially on a night like that, was just unforgivable. And I remember just getting in and seeing the 2 boys on the bench and going, what is going on here? What the hell? One of the maddest nights ever. But yeah, strange manager, great footballer. Him, the likes of Koeman and Van Basten, when they were playing for AC Milan and stuff, in particular the 2 boys, they were fabulous footballers. But yeah, strange manager.
Well, there we go. That is our first ever worst 11. Goalkeeper was Lionel Perez. Ashra Lazar, who I'd completely forgotten about, in at left back. Then at centre back, we've got Sol Campbell, ably unassisted by Marcelino. We've then got the enigma that is Titus Bramble, aka Shambles, as many people used to christen him. Into the midfield, Damien Duff, the man who said he was going to stay and didn't. And then this guy, as I mentioned earlier, often seen in the casino, never seen on a football pitch, Stephen Ireland. Then a man who promised so much but delivered very little, and subsequently delivered very little when he went off elsewhere, CM de Jong. This guy, another in the bad haircuts collection, right winger, Remy Cabella. And then up top, Seydou Doumbia. Wow, there's a blast from the past. And Michael Owen, who I've got to be honest, I think will be in quite a few people's 11s, if I've got to be honest. Substitute bench, well, Martin went for Jack Annick. Done okay since he left Newcastle, it has to be said, but didn't do well at the tune. Gabriel Obertan, a Fergie reject. Now we know why. And Emmanuel Riviera, dear me how. Walking like an Egyptian there. Certainly not playing like a Brazilian, and somebody who couldn't stick it out in the Premier League, but probably did all right in his wage packet. And leading the motley crew, Ruud Gullit. Sexy football certainly wasn't. But Ruud Gullit, of course, did get us to a cup final before he dropped Shearer and Big Duncan on that ill-fated night against Sunderland and handed in his P45. Wonderful, Martin. Great stuff, mate. That is your worst ever 11. And I'm sure there'll be a few more donkeys in the next episodes. But thanks for joining us, everybody. And Martin, if you want to follow him on X at MagsMighty1, give him a follow tonight. Cheers, mate.
No worries. Good to see you.